The ambush of officers Ramos and Liu has made police around the country more aware of the power of social media. Currently, 8 out of 10 law enforcement officials use social media during investigations. That's almost a 10% increase from just 2 years ago.
Joining us now from Washington is Sean Henry. He is the former executive assistant director of the FBI and was the agency's top agent on cybersecurity issues. Sean, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. So this topic has sort of been out there for a while, this notion of social media going hand in hand with investigations. But I think I read from an expert once saying something like, it's like trying to take a sip from a fire hydrant. I mean, is social media really useful when it comes to this?
Well, social media has really transformed the way citizens communicate, and police officers, law enforcement community must stay constantly in contact with its citizens, be receptive and responsive to citizens' complaints, and be able to monitor trends that are occurring within communities. So it certainly has changed the way law enforcement works with and responds to crimes.
Sean, Mark Albert mentioned that there were 7 arrests for threats to police in New York this week. 3 of those apparently came out of information from social media. How do police actually track this stuff?
That's right. So law enforcement looks at aggregate data. They can use social media to monitor trends and to follow developments within a community. They've got the ability, using certain applications, to look for keywords or identifiers that might alert them to some ongoing threat or some act of violence.
You mentioned those techniques. I read about an algorithm. How exactly do you mine through? Is there a way to easily explain to us how you find things on social media?
Well, it's somewhat complex. You talk about algorithms. There are ways, computer code, computer programs that enable the users to search just the way citizens use to search for things via Google or other types of applications. But again, the ability for law enforcement to look at large swaths of data. There are billions of postings through dozens of popular social media platforms that law enforcement may look at.
Sean, obviously there's a lot of inflammatory dialogue on social media. How do you determine what is actually a threat?
That's a great question. I mean, this is an area where law enforcement has to be naturally cautious, because you can't infringe upon people's First Amendment rights. And there's constantly a balance between the types of threats that we've seen here in New York and elsewhere versus people's legitimate right to speak freely and language that is protected by the Constitution. So law enforcement has to balance that. They have to look at the type of language that's being used. They look at whether somebody has the means or the motives, perhaps somebody who's actually gone out and purchased weapons or something of that nature, indicating that they're moving beyond just a statement to some actual act of violence.
Very interesting realm of investigation. Sean Henry, thank you so much.